My friend Andrew and I have known each other for ages. We met at work, with him starting a little over a year after me, and over time we started hanging out a lot, camping and fishing, while spending hours talking about philosophy, religion, and women. About a year and a half ago, he discovered a new hobby: geocaching. At first, I was a little annoyed at his excitement for what he called caching, but soon I began to enjoy it right along with him. After a couple of months, we had both become pretty good at finding the hidden stashes, and we were looking for a new challenge. One day in early October, I was sitting at my desk working on a report when Andrew walked up to me with a sly grin. "Hey, buddy." He seemed to be trying to contain a level of excitement that I hadn't seen in him before. "What's up?" I asked slowly, knowing he only had that look when a crazy idea had found its way into his head. "I found a cache that I think we should go after this weekend. There is a small catch, though," he said. "Well, now you have my attention." "So there's a type of cache that's meant to be found at night. This one in particular is in a forest about 70 miles from here. You have to use a flashlight and follow a series of reflectors to the final location where the cache is hidden." By this point, I was both skeptical and a little excited. I'd never been one to go trudging through the woods in the middle of the night, especially in a place that I had never been, but this cache sounded like a lot of fun. "Well, when do you want to go?" I asked. "I was thinking maybe this weekend. My wife's sister is in town and I need to get out of the house," he replied. "I'm game. I could use a night out too, and it sounds like this will be an adventure for the ages." The rest of the week was spent planning and preparing for the trip. Flashlights were checked, bags were packed with water and medical supplies. We always overpacked, even for normal hiking excursions, just in case. We left Saturday afternoon, and after about a 2-hour drive, we found ourselves in a small parking lot at the edge of a forest. The sun had just gone down, and twilight was starting to set in. The air was crisp and cool, but still warm for October, and after some final checks of our gear, we put on our packs and set out onto the trail. Based on our assessment and prior logs from people who had found the cache, we figured it would take about 2 hours round trip. Had we known what the night would hold, however, we would have probably gotten back in the car and just left. We'd been following the reflective tacks used to mark the right trail on the trees for about 30 minutes. They'd been set up in a simple order: a single tack on one tree and 2 on the next, back to a single one, and so on like that. I was following Andrew since he had the brighter light out of the two of us when suddenly he stopped dead in his tracks. "Jeremy?" His voice sounded shakier than I expected. "Yeah, buddy, what's up?" "The last tacks we saw were a set, right?" he asked, keeping his light on a tree in the distance. "Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were. Why?" I was starting to worry, though part of me assumed that he was trying to pull some kind of prank, as he liked making a pastime out of messing with me. "I'm not sure, but I think I see another set up there." I walked up next to him to see what he was seeing, and sure enough, there appeared to be 2 tacks about 50 feet ahead of us, 10 feet or so up in a tree. "That's odd. Maybe we missed a single one somewhere," I said, even though we were both sure we would have seen it. The tacks had been spaced evenly to that point, and in the same order from the beginning. To make sure we hadn't missed anything, we decided to backtrack, looking carefully through the trees as we went. After about 15 minutes, we found our way back to the previous set and found that there were in fact 2 tacks, and that we hadn't missed any single ones along the way. After a brief discussion, we decided to push on, figuring one of the tacks had just fallen out of the tree that it was supposed to be in, and making a note of the moment to add to our log later on. Returning to the spot where we'd stopped before, we were shocked to see that the set of tacks that started the whole fiasco was now missing completely. "Where did they go?" he asked, his voice cracking. Maybe we just got off the trail or something. I was trying to sound convincing, but I knew my voice wasn't showing much confidence either. Jeremy, there's only one trail. There's literally no other trail that we could have branched off on. See that tree right there? He pointed his light at an oddly shaped tree. That is the exact tree that we saw the last time we were in this spot. I knew he was right. The tree stuck out like a sore thumb, and I remembered it very well. At this point, we were both feeling kind of uneasy. I know it sounds dumb, but neither of us were accustomed to being out in the woods at night. We lived in a big city with lights everywhere, so the darkness was unsettling to say the least. I'm going to go a little ways further and see if I see any other tacks. If not, maybe we should head back to the car and just call it a night, I said as bravely as I could. All right, you do that. I'm going to go step over here and answer nature's call real quick. Just shout if you find anything. With that, I set off down the trail, not wanting to stick around for the details. I had only gone about 20 feet or so, just enough to see a bit around the upcoming bend, when my eye caught a glimmer of light. A reflector. This was a single reflector, only a few feet away from where we thought we had seen the set earlier. I walked a little further up just to be sure that it was a single one, and then turned around and shouted out to Andrew to let him know I had found it. Hey, I got the next tack right here. No answer. I waited a couple of minutes and shouted again, but again I was met with silence. I went back to where he had been and began searching both sides of the trail, thinking maybe he had fallen or was somehow incapacitated and unable to respond to my calls. After a few minutes of searching to no avail, I remembered that he and I shared our locations on our phones with each other in case of emergency, and I pulled out my phone and opened up the map app. Service was slow, but it was still there. After a couple of minutes of loading, I was looking at his location on my phone, and confusion quickly set in. The location data seemed to say that his phone had last pinged 30 seconds prior over a mile away. It had to be a glitch. There was no way that he traveled a mile in less than 3 minutes in the woods at night. I decided to try and call and see if I could hear his ringer, sure that the GPS was glitching out. As soon as I heard the ringing on my end, I turned the volume down and listened for his ringtone, but there was nothing but silence. At this point, I realized that I was in the middle of the woods, alone in the dark. The next logical thing to do was to follow his last reported signal and see where it led me. I reopened the map app, only to find that his signal was now showing him a half a mile away in the opposite direction. That's impossible, I said to myself, jumping at the sound of my own voice. Keeping the app open, I decided to start heading toward his location, keeping a close eye on the little dot. After about 15 minutes, I reached the location and began searching for him or his phone. Looking around and seeing nothing but darkness, I decided the best thing to do would be to head back to the trail and call the authorities to start a search. I was out of options and my cell phone coverage was almost non-existent. Suddenly, something hard hit me in the forehead. It took me a minute to realize what had happened and get my bearings. My head was pounding, and with my hand I could feel a bump and a slight trickle of blood. Once I snapped back to my senses, I used my flashlight to look around, and within a couple of seconds, my eyes landed on the thing that hit me. Andrew's phone was lying on the ground a couple of feet away. I picked it up and found that the screen was cracked, but it was still on and in the middle of recording a video. I hit the stop button and quickly realized that he must be trying to mess with me. Haha, you got me. That was a good one. Time to come out now, though, so that we can get out of here. I expected to see him come out from behind a tree, laughing and gloating at his practical joke, but I received no response. Sighing, I decided to play him at his own game. I'm going to start browsing through your pictures. Maybe put some of those pictures you have of that night we went to Vegas on Facebook? Still, nothing. I opened the photo app and began scrolling through his photos. He told me about some of the pictures that he had that I knew he wouldn't want getting out, and I figured if he saw me actually going through them, he would walk out and just give up. The first thing in his album was a video, the one that the phone had been capturing when it hit me in the head. I hit play, figuring I would catch him throwing it at me, but what I saw was something that shook me to the core. The video started with Andrew whispering about how he was going to get me good. He switched the camera around to show me off in the distance, but the light from my flashlight was barely visible. I was not ready for what I saw when he switched the camera back around to his face, though. The light from his flashlight was illuminating him, but it also showed something standing behind him. Before I knew what was happening, the thing grabbed him up and the camera turned around. The ground approached quickly before complete darkness took over. In the video, I could hear noises, but I couldn't make out exactly what the noises were. A sudden fear engulfed me, and I felt like I was in immediate danger. I began running back toward the trail, dropping the phone as I went, and as soon as I found the path, I followed it as fast as I could, all the way back to the parking area. Once inside the car, I called 911. I must have sounded like a crazy person to the operator, telling her that a monster had taken my friend out in the woods. But even so, the police arrived within 45 minutes. I explained to the officer why I was there and what had happened, but he just kept asking me about the blood on my clothes. I kept insisting that we needed to get a search party out there with the biggest guns that they could muster to find the monster that had taken my friend. At first light, they had a group searching, and it wasn't long before they found the body. It appeared that Andrew had been stabbed multiple times, and his phone was nowhere to be found. I've spent weeks trying to convince anyone who will listen that there is something dangerous in those woods. Not a single person has believed my story, but they all seem to agree that a monster killed my friend.